Alright. This is the podcast.
This is the High Council, or the High Council podcast. That's what it is.
I think this is a podcast.
Yeah.
It's something like that.
Yeah.
It's really just...
More of a radio show. Good old Rush Limbaugh, 94 kind of shit going on here.
Well, because people listen to this live, right?
Oh, yeah, of course. We have thousands of viewers. Mm-hmm. And that's why we do it, of course. We don't do it to talk about insightful shit.
Yeah,
we only do it for
go to our Patreon, and you have the ability to listen to us record live.
Well, yeah, I thought you already had this shit set up. All of us could steal the money from these fuckers. I mean, these people are just watching or listening or whatever to send us money, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
We're only here to vamp.
So yeah, exactly. We're just here to fucking banter and pretend we're intellectuals about topics we know nothing about.
This is the Grifter podcast.
Realistically, I think this is just background noise.
I mean, you guys are fucking liberals, so I don't even know what I'm doing here. I should be on the fucking Ben Shapiro show or some shit. That's my level.
Yeah, I'd rather just come in here and just talk about nonsense. I don't think people now that Trump's not in office, who's trying to listen to politics?
Trump,
who cares?
Trump. Okay.
We don't have someone to be mad at. Let's just not
Yeah.
That's kind of crazy. Trump was in the news every day for 4 years, and then one day he just completely fell off the map. I can't remember the last time I heard something about Trump that I actually gave a fuck about.
That is why I voted for Biden.
And when you see Biden in the news, it's you see the most ridiculous, just out of character. He's almost like a celebrity by himself. But people look up to him because he's the quote unquote savior from the last 4 years,
the leader of the free world.
Which we talked about this the other day. But I personally think, and this might be an unpopular opinion, but I personally think that things were more interesting when Trump was in office because more people cared about politics.
Yeah, and that might be an important precursor to actually doing something about it. That's the issue.
Now that Joe Biden is in office, nobody cares.
I would argue that's what they wanted the whole time. They
Probably.
want to give us Trump to be a sponge to soak up all the badness, and then throw him away, and suddenly good old America's back. And the status quo.
I don't want anybody to get it twisted. I hate Joe Biden. I hate Kamala Harris. I hate
Trump.
I hate Mike Pence. I hate a majority of all politicians.
I love George W. Bush.
Yeah.
And of course,
my
John
favorite
Bolton.
president.
Well, Netanyahu's really doing some good.
I just hate the majority.
Okay, that was too controversial.
I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I actually have two brain cells.
You saw how I tried to just segue. He didn't just say that.
Whatever.
No, I just think that it is interesting to see that, as shitty as Joe Biden is, nobody is nearly as outraged as they were. Maybe it's because he's not outwardly racist and misogynistic, and
he's only inwardly racist and outwardly when it comes
I was
going
to
to
say he's racist behind closed doors, but
and when
the thing is that when you don't see that on media outlets and shit, there's no immediate outrage. Trump was just calling Hispanic people and all kinds of other races, all kinds of other slurs, and that was just acceptable to some people. I feel like that is a big part of the fucking outrage that came with that.
And it's unfortunate because Biden is just as racist, if not more racist than Trump in policy, because he actually supported segregation publicly in the 60s.
He wrote the 94 crime bill.
He wrote the 1994 crime bill, which is the reason, by the way, that the police is militarized as it is in the modern age.
Well, Kamala Harris hates black people as well.
Of course. Why else would she take money to kill them?
I don't understand how anyone on this earth can ever positively say that Kamala Harris doesn't hate black people.
I just think Kamala Harris is a common sellsword, as Tyrion Lannister would say. She's just a puppet for hire to put in government.
Yeah, I pretty much agree
and do
with
the
that.
bidding of corporations.
And I'm sure that there's a lot of people that resonate with that. Not necessarily because of the fact that we dislike her for the right reasons.
Yeah,
there are a lot of people out there that hate Kamala Harris just
because they're racist pieces of sexist shit.
Exactly.
And they just think that, a female vice president.
That's the thing. It's we don't. It's not that. Oh no, Of course, anyone with two brain cells knows that a woman can be president or vice president.
I'd rather
and
women
do the
be
job just as well, if not better.
I'd rather.
But what I'm saying is when you know things, when you know specific details about why Kamala Harris is so shitty.
Of course. Because she's a Democrat.
How could you support somebody like that? She's a corporate Democrat. Exactly. That's the problem. I don't think there's anything inherently bad with being a Democrat or a liberal or whatever you want to call it. You just when you get to that corporate area where it's okay, we have how many Democrats vote right wing or Republican just because they get paid to vote a certain way or to do a certain thing a certain way? Like, you just give me money, I'll disagree with this. Like, it doesn't matter what my views are.
That's just every part, both parties. What were you going to say,
That's what
Trent?
I'm saying.
I was going to say the thing that really got me about Kamala Harris is just like the way that on the campaign trail she would talk about like this left-wing legislation, and now that she's actually in power, hasn't done anything.
Yeah,
Like, she said on the campaign trail, like, "Oh, we're going to legalize weed."
Yeah,
and
nothing.
then she told Joe Biden, like, "Oh, let's legalize weed," and he was just like, "Oh no."
Yeah, no, I know
Yeah.
I disagreed with that like
And,
2 decades
yeah.
ago.
And
But
Biden-
the
no,
thing is like
I'm fine with it now.
Yes, I like President Reagan.
Wasn't
Yes,
Biden
okay.
against gay marriage?
Of course.
Like,
before it was popular.
That's what I'm
And
saying.
then when it's popular.
There's now that
Come
because
on, Jack, I've always supported gay
because
marriage.
now we live in a day and age where it is socially acceptable to be homosexual, and people
Yeah.
will crucify
As
you
opposed to 2006.
for not
I'm pretty
accepting
sure
that.
It is.
It's
Pride was today,
unacceptable
actually. Or
to
it's
not
Pride-
accept
yeah.
that.
It's
and
Pride
that's it is Pride Month. It is the first day of Pride Month.
Well,
Yeah,
happy Pride Month, everyone,
Yeah.
especially
Yeah.
Mitch McConnell.
Yeah, we love the LGBT community.
For sure.
Yeah, absolutely. All jokes aside, absolutely.
Yeah, no.
The inclusiveness is the key to progress in this species.
Yeah.
Star Trek taught me that, and I'll never forget
We
it.
can sit here and make jokes all day long, but at the end of the day, I
We're
don't
staunch
think there's
progressives.
there's nobody. Like I said,
We're pretentious progressives.
the same point I made
Kinda.
earlier. Like, anybody with a functioning brain that like isn't just a complete bigot understands that like people can do what they want to do. People can have sex with who they want to have sex with. They can marry who they want to marry. It doesn't affect me. It's not my life. I don't care.
Yeah, but
Do you?
The
Let's
liber-
just be happy.
the libertarian perspective always has a reality bias. I know they say that about leftism. I would go a step further. I would say the libertarian / anarchist like part of the spectrum of like political thought has a reality bias, and I think things just work better when you let diversity naturally form, because then you get a more. See, the problem with forcing diversity, right, is that it's often done by the racists themselves.
Yeah, because
For the reason
because
to-
they don't want to seem racist.
Yeah, exactly. And I also want to control
Or they don't
who's
want to
who-
seem homophobic or
Yeah.
whatever.
They also want to control who's the who's the woman with the appropriate thoughts that we can lift up. Who's the minority we can lift up who doesn't have too many scary thoughts.
Yeah.
Because if you're MLK, they'll just assassinate you.
Yeah, exactly.
If you're Fred Hampton, they'll just assassinate you. But if you're Cory Booker or Barack Obama, you get to be president because guess what? You do the bidding of corporations.
Yeah, I was gonna say, as long as you conform to these very specific things we want you to do, we'll let
Yeah.
you do your thing.
It's pretty
just-
pretty upsetting to see the racists be
When
the
it's-
ones who claim to be the most progressive.
When it's that deep rooted and when it's that systemic, how do you fix that? Like, that's like the thing that I think about a lot. Like, with police brutality and the justice system and what the shit the fucking 9 minutes ago before we started recording, the shit we were just talking about.
With our friends,
How-
unfortunately incarcerated.
How do you fix that? How do you go about saying, okay, when this is... I'm not trying to repeat myself, but it's that deep-rooted, what do you do?
What do you think about that, Trent?
What were you guys saying?
Just how could you? I know you're doing research.
Yeah,
here.
Racism-
I was reading some shit.
How do you fix it? Systemic
Racism
problem.
is such a systemic, deep-rooted problem that started with the conception of the... Well, it didn't start with that, but the United States was founded with those ideas and that mindset in mind.
Basically the British Empire.
How do you fix that? Like, what can we do other than just get rid of every single politician now to fix that problem?
So I guess in America, like racism is it's both inside and outside the system, and you can combat racism inside the system through reform. But there's not really a whole lot you can do about outside the system. You know, people that are just prejudiced themselves. You know, like I think everybody has a family member or a friend or whatever that has some kind of prejudiced views, and you can try to talk to them about it, and maybe you'll get through to them. But some people just can't listen, or they won't hear it.
They just need to be educated. We need a better education system.
Yeah,
And we'll see less
so-
racism if we have a better education system.
So yeah, I think that the way to approach at least combating systemic racism would be reform. Like you need to
Genuine reform.
yeah, like you need those sweeping kind of changes, like, oh, we're not going to structure
like getting rid of Uncle Ben.
But what
well,
is
not
it?
that.
What is it?
I'm kidding.
I'm
what is
talking
it
about
gonna
like
take,
the
man?
like the education system, for example, it's structured in a racist way because it's funded according to this district. So a black district with less income and more students, or more students per teacher or whatever metric, is going to have a lower quality of education as opposed to the white schools. So the way to do that is I think that the answer is to centralize education funding. So everybody gets the same resources for their schools, so each student has the same opportunities. That's like one example of a reform.
No schools and communities competing with one another, when in reality they all have different starts at the race.
That's what I'm saying. Like, you can go to school, because like we're in Dayton, right? You can go to school in one part of Dayton and receive a subpar education, and go to school in another part of Dayton and receive a world-class education. And it's that way, I think, all across America.
Yeah, I mean that's just like the public versus private education argument all the way.
Yeah,
I feel like that's a whole other can of worms that we can get into if you guys want to, but I just think it's like what is it going to take for those changes to come to fruition? Like,
I have
what is going to be the
redacted.
the straw that broke the camel's back that basically makes it to where people say, okay, fuck this, we're fixing this now. Like,
I think,
when are people going to get tired of police brutality to the point that we actually do something about it? That's
I think
what I'm trying to figure out.
Yeah, I see what you mean. Honestly, I think it's a huge conundrum, like you were saying, and that's like I'm mostly worried about it more than anything else. But as far as the solution that I think might work, it's kind of hard to explain. It's not like, I just feel like we tend to, as James Baldwin said, sometimes, especially white people, tend to look at the problem of race as like, well, what can I do to give the minorities their freedom?
No, I meant like as a
No, I'm not saying you're saying that. I'm saying like in general.
Yeah, okay.
Just not, you're not saying that at all, of course. I'm just saying like in general, I just feel like it's so hard for people to change these things because they don't even understand that they themselves have a bigger part than they think. And I think that people have more power than they think. And I think that the best way to solve a systemic problem, as Trent said, would be through genuine reform. So
just change the system. I understand, like, theoretically, that's the best way
and
to do it.
And through practice, I think the best way to do it is like the best way to change anything about society. You do a general strike. So you just decide, well, what's the most important thing in society that makes it function? Going to work. Well, 300 million people aren't going to work today until this is solved in a week. And that'll happen immediately. And it's happened throughout history. This is not just speculation. This is how all change in American history has occurred. People were literally fighting battles and dying over their minds in the 1890s. And as a result, we literally have a country with child labor laws and Social Security, well, which is quickly being diminished by both the Republican and Democratic Party. But I'm saying, like, the concept of having any kind of, like, social welfare, like, more, you know, moving towards that more, like, collectivism mentality, taking care of the people who need to be taken care of, that only happened because the workers forced it to happen. The rich didn't just one day decide, oh, I'm going to go ahead and take less profit to help people.
Do you think people are more...
We had to fight for it.
Do you think people are willing to actually do that? Cause
absolutely. People are angry. People are so angry.
Because that's the thing is, if there's a revolution, I'm obviously everyone in this room is going to be supporting the working class and the right side of whatever argument there is. But I'm saying, like, how can you revolt, or how can you go on a general strike, or how can you do certain things when the government has so much power over us?
So
if there was a revolution, maybe things do get violent. Maybe it's a huge thing. Yeah. Everyone is just chaos.
Or it could be peaceful.
What's stopping the government from just drone striking us?
Because they need us.
Yeah.
I understand that they need some of us.
No, they need all of us.
They don't need every single person. The government has made it abundantly clear they do not need all of us.
Then why do they try to propagandize all of us? I mean, they try to get to all of us mentally.
But I'm saying
so they don't have to kill us.
There's so many Americans that are already sacrificial lambs to
COVID
the military, to COVID, to whatever you want to call it. The government doesn't care about the individual. Yes, if they can keep X amount of people alive, they'll do it. But that's not going to stop them from killing hundreds of millions.
Or if they have robots.
Or, I'm
to do
sorry,
the work for
tens
them.
of millions.
Or if they have robots to do the work
Yeah, if
for
they
them.
automate everything, we're done.
Unless we
we're
stand up for ourselves.
useless.
But what were you going to say, Trent?
I was going to say, I think that the way to really affect change in the government and outside of the government is you have to build dual power. You have to show up at the ballot box and vote, but you also have to engage on the other side of things. Like, you need to do some kind of activism or advocacy, you know, whether that's, you know, participating in a strike, like you said, or protesting, like, you know, we're going to go block the highway. Because if you block the roads, there's no economic activity going through there.
Free Palestine, by the way.
Free Palestine, yeah.
Free Palestine, guys.
Yeah, and that approach, I could probably go on about this, but it's getting kind of long-winded.
No, I get what you're saying.
Yeah,
I think
it's
we
like,
both do. You have to be active, like in some way, shape, or form.
yeah.
You have to show up everywhere you're needed.
It's not enough to
Make
just
change.
check the box with a D next to the name.
Yeah,
you
you-
got to vote for the right candidate,
Yeah.
and you got to keep showing up. And
People
then
have
you
been
gotta-
voting for Democrats for how long, and nothing's changed. So
Yeah.
obviously that isn't enough.
And I'll make a radical statement on that. If you just check D next to your name, you are just as much a part of the problem as a Republican.
Yeah, of course.
And that's the end of it. You do not have you are not a little bit more moral. You
I mean, to be
really
honest with
participate.
you, my thought process when it came to voting, and it goes back to the point that I made earlier, but it wasn't even because I liked Joe Biden or, you know, the whole pick your poison, pick the lesser of two evils argument.
Yeah.
Whatever. It wasn't even about that for me. I was so tired
Me either.
of confident Trump supporters and confident racists and bigots feeling like they have the ability to go out in public with that shit. That was my whole argument. I was tired of seeing that motherfucker's name. I was tired of hearing his name. I was tired of seeing and hearing his supporters.
Yeah.
It was just too much.
Yeah.
But I'll play devil's advocate to my own fucking point. Like I was saying earlier, people actually paid attention when that was going on. If that's enough to create enough of an outrage for people to go
We had riots
and rally and have riots and have protests and whatever you want to call it, I just fuck it. So be it. Let's add some more fuel to the fucking fire because that's the only way things are actually going to change.
So it's accelerationism, basically. Like
Yes.
it's the idea that things need to get a whole lot worse before they get better.
Let's keep pissing people off. Let's piss off every demographic so motherfuckers finally wake up and say, okay, we need to change for everybody.
I think that's kind of an interesting point because, you know, we brought up it was Pride Month earlier, but I think a lot of people, like, they forget why Pride Month is a thing. It's to commemorate the Stonewall riots, which was basically the police were doing a raid in Greenwich Village, New York. It's like a big gay community. And when the police got out of hand, a bunch of people just fought back.
Yeah.
And
Because
it's like now we're at a point where nobody even thinks about it that way.
Yeah.
It's been completely whitewashed. Now it's just, the Pride Parade. Everyone's going to go out.
Yeah,
And,
no, this is
celebrate
totally what this is
diversity and
about.
inclusion. It's like, no, the origins of this were anti-authority, anti-authoritarian.
Anti-status quo.
And I think that's I always when I think about shit like that and circumstances like that, it makes me happy to think that there are communities of people out there that will look out for each other like that.
Yeah.
That will say no. Like you're not getting away with this. Like this is not acceptable.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the answers to the problem of like racism in policing is that there needs to be a proactive attitude on the side of the community.
Yeah.
Like we're gonna protect ourselves. There needs to be community defense.
So the idea of thinking global, act local.
Yeah.
I think it comes full circle. How do you affect systemic change? You change the system. And the way you change the system is by not listening to authority, but decentralizing and focusing on the local aspect, your community, the people around you that you can walk up to door, have a conversation with, and ask, do you like your long hours or your lack of? Do you think you're getting paid fairly to raise these children? Would you like to have health care for these children? And being able to have that, being able to go in your community, like, the human brain was not meant to know and care about more than 150 people at a time. So it's really hard for us to like act nationally and get on the internet and think we're going to do anything.
Right.
Like in some ways we need to kind of go back to a more decentralized local mindset, without all the crazy racism that used to exist with that.
Right.
But I still think it's possible. I still think it's possible to resist the pull of authority.
Yeah.
And have the people rule themselves. I think it's possible. The people can run the mills.
It is possible. But the thing is, dude, life in America, each of us we're individualized. We're so atomized.
Maybe we have to break out of that.
Yeah, we do.
We have to grow up and stop being so materialistic.
It's just hard to have. It's hard to have that different mindset when how you can feel that way. And you can feel super strongly about that way, and you can go out and you can do those things as an individual, but when you do those things your entire life and no actual change comes to fruition, what is it all for?
Maybe it's just that change can't be seen from the individual side, but it's only acted from the individual side.
I mean, I know.
You just can't see it, but you have to act that way anyway. You don't realize it, but when you've done an action, you've radiated some energy into the world that will not stop. It's going to pass from every person that you've talked to and influenced. Even making some silly politogram meme, it sees 17 people, or 17 people see it, rather.
You impacted those.
You've impacted those people, and then exponentially that grows. And I think maybe change is just... we're in the unfortunate situation of having to look beyond what we can see with change.
No, I agree with that.
We have to think in almost a higher dimension about change, which is that change comes from all of us working together over time. And each person is just an atom in that change. And we don't really get to see it, but we know we're doing something. So even just informing oneself, sharpening the mind like it's your sword, those kinds of ideas, I think, break you free. Learning how to critically think, learning how to question everything.
Which is not what we learn in the American education system.
It's
the so-called education system.
Yeah.
People get criticized for being over-analytical. No. I think, no. You need to be over-analytical of everything.
Yeah.
Don't believe everything that you read or are told or see or whatever it is. No.
Yeah.
Just question everything. That's how we've gotten this far. Is just because of the genuine curiosity. Why does X happen, or why does Y happen when I do X?
And people just that curiosity is beaten out of them by a million different screens.
Yeah, because you're told
with a million different ads.
Because every job you do the same thing. Every degree, it might not be the exact same thing, but it's the exact same process. Yeah. You go to work from 9 to 5, you come home, you have dinner with your shitty fucking family, and then you go to bed and you wake up and you do it all over again. And you live your life on autopilot until you get to your 2 measly days off, where you inevitably have to spend time with either other family, other friends, run errands that you didn't have time to do when you were working.
Maybe the solution to that is just
your average person's life in the United States fucking sucks. I don't think anybody enjoys working 40 hours a week or 50 hours a week.
Man.
I think perhaps
I'm so, and if you do, that whatever, that's your passion, you enjoy it. I'm not discrediting that or belittling.
But
that.
A service industry worker who just shows up to a job and they have to be there 8-9 hours,
or they starve and their kids.
If you're a fucking welder and you enjoy welding for 50 hours a week and you make good money, do that.
Yeah, but that's a skill.
No one. I'm not ever discrediting that.
Yeah.
I'm saying that when you're how many fucking fast food workers are there? There's millions, hundreds or tens of millions at least. So when that many people, which you could say the average person out of that group is an adult trying to support either themselves or a family, your life sucks. Nobody wants to work full time, and if you do want to work full time, or if you have to work full time, you want to at least make enough money to live off of, which you can't.
I just think the issue is that it's really just a mental battle that we're all losing pretty badly. And the truth is that if we want to change society, we just have to change how we view the world. We have to, and that is a personal thing that individuals have to do. And the problem is that, we have, even Adam Smith, the foundation of modern capitalism, even he said only a minority of the workers even need to work to create produce for the company. Or not the company, but the country, or the company, And we've gone from that, which was a pretty good understanding of work, to lying to ourselves and thinking that someone's life value is how many numbers they can create. It doesn't make any sense. I mean, we literally tell people that you have to fucking validate your existence by toiling in the fucking fields, okay? And you know,
it doesn't matter how smart or how unique or how good of an artist you are.
Well, no,
the only thing that matters is how much money you bring in.
Yeah, it's social Darwinism.
And money is even real.
Yeah, it's social Darwinism applied to a theory of labor. You know, it's like, well, you're only as valuable as you are to the broader society in the value you produce.
Justify your right to live for me.
I mean, the only argument that really needs to be even had about that is how many Einsteins or how many fucking genius intellect level human beings starve to death in third world countries where they just never even get the ability to have an education and get to a level where they're that smart.
And that's probably one of the most important things to bring up in terms of like why our system doesn't work. We just don't select for the best people to be merited. We don't live in a merit-based system. A merit-based system implies people have the ability to actually earn merit,
well,
but they don't.
People think that like if it's not happening in the United States and it's not happening in their state or directly in front of them, then it's not my life. It's not my reality.
And that just
even though
back,
it's our country that's drone striking other countries and killing
and
civilians.
committing genocide and aiding and abetting genocide.
Like at a certain point, you can't like say what you want or feel how you feel about other countries or third world countries. At the end of the day, if you have a sense of empathy, you can put yourself in that person's shoes and say, "Hey, if I was there and America was coming over and drone striking my country, I would say fuck America too."
Of course. Just like we said, fuck the British.
Exactly.
That's it. I mean, it's pretty easy to understand. Americans should understand.
But a lot of people don't. They can't make that connection. And they think it's like so. Oh, you don't like America? Like, no, dude, no. You're a terrible person.
Well, they're just really deep in the fucking propaganda bubble. You know what I mean? Those are the same kinds of people that buy hook, line, and sinker into the idea. It doesn't matter
who it is, bro.
Well, we just stand up for human rights.
Aliens, fucking aliens from outer space could come and bomb the United States, and we would say, fuck them. Like, it doesn't matter who it is. If someone is destroying your home and terrorizing your country, you are going to hate them and you are going to resent them.
Yeah, because it's not as if the common poor person has anything to do with what the government of, like,
no,
Iraq
not at all. Not at all.
Know,
it's sad to know that even the poorest person possible, their tax dollars are still going towards funding shit like that.
Yeah.
Rather than reforming the system that makes that person that poor and lets them live that terribly.
And by the way, just a reminder, we give $50 billion or more to Israel a year to aid them in committing genocide on the scale of the apartheid in South Africa and or the Holocaust.
We commit our own genocide, as if that wasn't enough.
Yeah, we give money to Saudi Arabia to genocide Yemen. We give, Saudi Arabia, as you might know, is essentially Gilead in real life. And we just give it the money to exist because why not?
Yeah, because we're so fucking evil that we need a place that horrible to exist.
Yeah, because God forbid the people in the Middle East ever find out that they have enough resources to do good on their own. We have to take it from them because they don't. We have the divine right as the British. The Americans. Or what are we going with now, guys? I know the merchants control society. What is the name of our fake country again to justify us into going fighting?
What are we, like?
Because seeing as how merchants have always ruled everything.
No, let's just close our eyes, have a map of the Middle East pulled up, close your eyes, do like 5 turnarounds so you get dizzy, and then throw a dart, and then that's the next country we're invading.
That's Dick Cheney.
Like that. that's it. Well, that's not. I mean, Dick Cheney started it, but it's been that way ever since him.
I mean, he didn't even start it.
He just kind of...
He continued.
He just continued it.
He capitalized on it and made it a little bit more prominent than what it was, I would say.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we literally... I mean, I would say we've done even worse things before Iraq. Even, like, during the 80s, 90s.
The United States had slavery.
And we also... I mean,
there are so many things... We've done so many heinous things, and I don't understand how anyone could be proud to be American.
And even after slavery...
proud to be from this country that was founded on genocide, rape, slavery, and fucking...
We've probably even killed
all those other horrible things.
We've probably even killed and tortured more innocent people after slavery than before. Because after slavery, we were giving other countries money to commit genocide for like 120 years.
Well, this whole thing is, even after slavery, on paper, they're free. That doesn't necessarily change people's opinions or mindsets on it. And all the... I mean, how many fucking things... We watched how many fucking movies about lynchings and all the crazy shit that happened during civil rights era, like
Yeah, America
the United
basically started the
States,
Holocaust.
That's what I'm saying.
The Nazis
Japanese
adopted.
internment camps.
Yeah, and slavery was really bad.
That's
Slavery
what I'm
was the
saying.
precursor to the Holocaust.
It's horrible. Like, how can anybody be proud to be from here, dude?
If you're just stupid, and that comes full circle, we just have stupid people in America.
I mean,
and our generation is the stupidest so far.
I think that it also has to do with, like, in the case of boomers, I think it has to do with the generation you're born in. Like, boomers, they were just propagandized as fuck. You know what I mean? They were just raised in
You
that
gotta
mindset.
think about it, man.
of,
And
like,
we're even
baby
more
boomers.
propagandized.
yeah.
Baby boomers were the result of World War II veterans
Yeah.
coming home and
And being fucked
banging
up.
their wives.
Pretty much.
And
Yeah.
so a majority of them were raised in
Yeah.
military households.
In the 50s.
And
in
then
the
the
50s, where mental health was not taken seriously whatsoever. It
Yeah.
wasn't even considered a thing.
And we're more propagandized than they are.
Yeah,
in my
and then,
opinion.
like, you know, the baby boomers have their kids, and they raise them with the same values, so that's how the Gen
Exactly.
Xers learn it. And then the
Yeah.
millennials, you know, there's not a whole lot of millennials.
Because
I mean, I'm sure there
were
are.
the generation after the boomers,
But-
some of them resented
Yeah,
them,
yeah,
but
but-
well, more often than not, they would resonate with them, and that's why you have this weird generation that we are part of, where you have like 50% fucking left wing liberal motherfuckers, and then you have 50% conservative, gung ho military gun rights conservatives. Like,
I might even have to disagree with that, just because
it's not 50-50. It's never going to be 50-50.
I think our
In a
generation.
perfect world, it
Yeah.
would be 50-50.
I think our generation is honestly just worse than the last ones. I think the last. I
Maybe
think in general,
mental
because,
health or like just circumstance wise, yes.
Yeah, I mean, we
But I'm
literally
saying
in
just-
the world as we speak.
More people in our generation align with us politically than people
Yeah.
a generation before us or our parents' generation, whatever.
I know, but I'm just saying, like, the world is.
That's
really,
what I'm talking about. I'm not necessarily us being worse off. I just think that
No.
people.
I just
are,
think we are having a worse impact.
people
than
are a
young
little
people
bit more
before.
conscious about things that aren't happening
Yeah.
in just the United States. Like I
Yeah.
said, like it doesn't. Your average person doesn't think that way because there's not many people. There's not too many generations that are alive right now that have those thoughts all the time.
I just think if you ask your average Generation Z who claims to be a leftist, what they thought about anything other than just social issues, they would probably answer with a pretty poorly educated answer. I think
I mean, I'm guilty of that. I don't know shit about the economy.
Yeah, I'm just saying, like, in general, I just think people in our generation aren't more informed, honestly. I think people in our generation...
about foreign affairs or
Yeah.
really any of that shit.
I think our generation is not more informed. I think our generation is actually more
What's
misinformed.
up, Jenna? Come in here.
I'm trying to go to bed.
All right.
Oh, is
Well,
that a wrap?
we've been going out
Yeah.
for 32 minutes. I think
Yeah, that's a
wrap.
perfect. That's a perfect size.
All right.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Calling it.